evening. If I was a dog, I would bark at me as well. Thanks for coming. The dog doesn't like me. Do I smell like peanut butter? What is it? Thanks for coming out. This is Monday. What day of the week is this? Monday. So this is Seattle. Oh crap! I thought it was Vancouver all day. I'm so sorry. Thanks for coming. Most of you have in your hands a copy of a new book called Everyday Cook. Several folks have asked me over the last couple of days, is it any good? It's always a hard question to answer. But I'll tell you this. 3 weeks ago, I got my first copy of this book from the publisher. They charged me $15, but it was a good deal. I decided I would take a copy to my mom. And I don't see my mom that often. We don't get along that great. But she's 80. So I thought at this rate, I should probably take it to her, because by the time I come out with another book, she'll be dead. So I take her the book. And she takes it in her hand, she kind of turns it over a couple times. She looks at me. She looks back at the book. She looks back at me. She said, well, it's better than the last one. And I said, Mom, you haven't opened it yet. How do you know that? And she said, well, you only gained 15 pounds of last book. So it's good, because that happened. I want to spend most of the time that we have here before we sign answering your questions, but there are a couple of things that are questions that have come up on the internet over the last 2 weeks since the book came out that have kind of overwhelmed in my Twitter feed and in Facebook and whatnot. So I thought I would answer those in advance so that you didn't have to waste time with your, repeating them. And then the number one question that we've gotten is why is this book called Everyday Cook? And I kind of addressed this in the introduction to the book, but heck, nobody reads those anymore. The truth is that there are 3 reasons. One, I consider myself to be an everyday cook. I don't consider myself to be a chef. I don't have tall white hats. I don't have the jackets anymore, and I very rarely scream at people in foreign languages. So I really don't qualify. So I'm an everyday cook. I believe in cooking every day. I believe that there's a great virtue in cooking beyond simply feeding yourself. The action of cooking to me is a very kind of zen thing, and I like to do it every day when I can. Except, of course, on book tour, and then I just replace it with drinking. Coffee. Up until about 4, and then break. The other reason I called it Everyday Cook is that every recipe in this book is meant to be cooked on an everyday basis. There are no recipes that begin day 1. There's nothing complicated. All of these dishes can be done on an everyday basis. So that's the answer to that question. The other big question at the beginning is, how did you pick these recipes? These are things I cook. I cook this stuff on a day-to-day basis. And I really didn't have an idea for this book. And one of the reasons I hadn't written a book in 5 years is because I was like, I got nothing. I got no ideas. I have no concept for a book. And one day I was in my apartment, and I was looking for something that I had lost, which is a relatively frequent occurrence in my personal life. I lose things. But I always look in the kitchen cabinets, because I tend to put things away in the kitchen cabinets, like, books, clothes, things like that. And when I'm looking for something in the kitchen, I open all the cabinets at one time. I just open and open and open until they're all open. That way I know where I've looked, right? And I noticed that on the inside of all the cabinet doors, which are white, I had scrawled pencil notes for recipes. It looked like Kevin Spacey's character from Seven lived there. You know what I mean? But it's like inside of every door was just notes and notes and notes. And like even the mirror in my bathroom's got like Sharpie notes of recipes. And I'm like, well, this could be a concept right here. And so I started putting them together and realized, wow, I've never really shared my food before. I mean, I've always written recipes from scratch to prove usually scientific points, or for the years that I was making the show called Good Eats on Food Network. Yeah? How many Good Eats fans? I have one word for you. Sequel. But it will not be on Food Network. I'm tired of being held down by the man. It's going to be on this thing we call the interwebs. It's going to be digital. Haven't figured out how to actually pay for it yet, but that's not going to stop me. Like taking like dog food ads, things like that. Yes, next year we're going to pick up where we left off. The time is right. So where was I? Anyway, so I started, looking at all these recipes. I was like, oh my gosh, this is my food. I should share this. And so I started writing all this stuff down. And what's ironic about it is that in all the years of writing recipes, and I don't know how many recipes I've written from scratch, thousands certainly, when you adapt recipes from your own cooking, from your own day-to-day cooking, it's really, really easy to make mistakes. And there are mistakes in this book. It's the first time it's happened to me. 7 books, pretty much no mistakes. 8th book, I got like 7 mistakes in there. So do me a favor, get out a pen and paper, write down this web page. Before you start picking out of this book, I want you to go to altonbrown.com/oops. OOPS. And there are corrections and clarifications. Some of them aren't really mistakes, they're just things that I might have thought a little more about that people have gotten back to me about. So go look at that, make the corrections in your book. But look at it this way. We're going to fix all of them in the next printing, so you have got a collector's item. You're welcome. Yeah, Wolf. You got it right. What's that?
That's his way of clapping.
That was his way. Your dog claps by barking. Another big question that I've done is why arrange the dishes by time of day? And indeed, the book is based in morning, coffee break, noon, afternoon, and all the way through to very late night. And I did that for a couple of reasons. I wasn't trying to be difficult, I wasn't trying to be different. It's that I associate dishes with times of day that I want to make them. I sometimes wake up in the morning and want to cook in the morning. Sometimes I want to cook at lunchtime, sometimes I cook late at night. And the dishes that I've given you guys in this book, it's like the late night dishes. I have never made these dishes before midnight. Ever. I only make them after midnight. There's a dish called Midnight Mud Cake. I only make it at midnight. Exactly on the strike of midnight. It is the ugliest dish I have ever made in my life. If you open the back of the book, it's a shot of me. It's like looking down past a microwave at what looks like dried lava combined with snot. It's delicious, but it's ugly. And the breakfast dishes, I only make in the morning. And that's when I started to realize I make things at weird times of day. There is a dish called breakfast carbonara. It's a pasta dish I make for breakfast. You're welcome. Nobel Prize, I'm waiting. Next year, I know it's too late for this year. So I thought, what I really wanted to have happen with that is not only for folks that bought the book to see when I make things, but to think about their own cooking day. To think about, it's a long day. You can cook in the morning, you can cook in the middle of the day. And how we cook and when we cook kind of affects how we serve people and how we eat. So that's kind of why that happened. And I don't think that there was any other way for me to sort out my food. I can't sort it by ingredient, I can't sort it by meal type. I cook by time of day. And so that's kind of how that works out for me. The other really big question, the last super big question that people have asked is, why in the world would you photograph an entire food book with an iPhone? Every photograph in this book, besides the 2 author photos at the beginning and end of the book, were shot with an iPhone 6S Plus from directly overhead. The most unfriendly angle for food known to man. Why would I do that?
Good camera.
What?
Good camera.
It's not that great of a camera. No. The iPhone 7, pretty good camera. iPhone 6S Plus, The reason I did it was not because I wanted to tap into the Instagram generation, not because I wanted to be gimmicky, but because I wanted to use a very, very simple, common tool. Look, if I made this book in the 70s, I would have shot it with a Polaroid SX70 land camera. If I shot it in the 60s, I would have used a standard Kodak Instamatic. In the 50s, I would have used a Brownie. Because in this day and age, I think that food photography has gotten to be too fussy and too much about what's happening behind the image. Look, if you've got 26 million pixels at your fingertips and 50 lenses, then you fuss around with that too much. So what I want to do is to remove all of that, use a very populist tool with a very simple lens, and put all of the work, the creative work, in front of the camera. Luckily, I chose a photographer who I had really kind of gotten into from Instagram. Sarah, stand up. Sarah, stand up. Sarah to here. Stop the book. All the photos are hers. I produced them, I lit them, and I kind of set the mise en scène as it is, or the scenes, the still lives. And what I realized is that really kind of freaked me out to be more creative with showing off the way I serve food, which turns out to be a little weird. You'll notice that there's a roast salsa served with chips in the hubcap of a 1974 Mercury. I had never really thought that was very odd until I took the photo. It's like, wow, most people don't do that. I serve crackers in a Kodak slide carousel. I just do. Why? Because they fit. The breakfast carbonara that I mentioned earlier, I served in a Vietnam War period mess kit. Because I have that, and that's how I do things. So the photographs are all my plating of my food and my service pieces. There are shots with plastic forks, because guess what? I use those. I use plastic forks. I use strange, old vintage things. I use a lot of scientific stuff to serve. So the use of the iPhone was really there to provide kind of a visual limitation, if you will, so that the creativity would be out in front of the camera. And hopefully that works, because when I look at the book, and I realized this once it was all done, is it's really a self-portrait of me, in a way. And that means that if you don't like the book, you don't like me. But if you like the book, you like me. Maybe, I don't know. We're still working that one out. Anyway, that's all I have to say. I would love to take some time, since we have a relatively small group here, and I think I can hear everybody. I would love to take time answering your questions about the book, about anything I've done on TV, and quite frankly, about anything, whether I know the answer or not. I'll just make that stuff up. Hey, a hand went up way back there. No, not there. Yes, you, sir. What is your question? Just shout it out.
So, I'm a pie maker. I love making pie.
You like pie?
That no matter how good of a pie I can make, someone's mother always makes it better than me. Now, your mother, whomever the mother is, your grandmother, how do you get around nostalgic baking?
Wait for the moms to die. That's really your best bet, because the problem is the pie, it's a nostalgic food. We put a lot of emotional validity into it. And so no matter, even though your pie is actually better than your mother's pie, your grandmother's pie, we need that cultural, that generational connection. So the best thing to do is to just not, because here's the thing, in the last 10 years of their life, usually their pie skills fall off. So what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to swoop in, post-mortem, and make the pie, and everybody will be like, oh my gosh, it's so wonderful, you made mama, grandma, nana, blah, blah, blah's pie, and then you're a hero. There is no other way. Steal their recipes. Because odds are they only have them written down in one place. And if you steal them, they won't be able to make them anymore. That's what I do. Thank you for your question. That was excellent. Anyone else? How about you, ma'am? Right there. It's like class. Up, you up, yes. Go ahead.
So, do you have a nutmeg in your pocket?
It's in my coat. It's in my jacket. I do have one, but I have a leather jacket. It's in my
Are you
leather
wearing your
jacket. Sit your ass down. I got some North Korean recipes for that pie. Hey, be cool. Be cool. I have a nutmeg, but I took my coat off because it was hot, because they don't have enough air conditioning here. So it's so yes, I will. Before we sign books, I will have. By the time you get to me, I'll have a nutmeg. You better have yours. That's all I have to say. If you want your book signed, nutmeg. Next question. Now that I'm getting mad, yes, sir.
How do I get
get a job as one of the Bobs?
How do you get a job as a Bob? You don't want to be a Bob. Bobs only have a life expectancy of about 3 weeks, and they're asexual. You're still standing. Bobs are born, not made, I'm afraid. No more Bobs. Anybody know what he's talking about? More than I would have thought. All right, who's next? Anybody? How about you, ma'am?
Why do you use bottled water in your pizza recipe?
Why do I use bottled water in my pizza recipe? Because water is the most important ingredient in pizza dough. And although I can tell you to use filtered water, I find that I can standardize the results a lot better if I just say use bottled water. Because it's been very standardized for its mineral content. Its hardness, softness is usually the same regardless, because everybody tries to make their bottled water taste pretty much alike. Okay, so to me, it's a great way of standardizing. Now, if you've got a really good water filter and you want to use that, okay. But I find that what happens a lot of times is people will use water filters and never change out the filter, and then eventually the water is just like it was coming out of the tap. And that, especially calcium and a few other minerals, make a really big difference on how that pizza dough comes out. Cool? Are we good?
Yes.
Because you don't look convinced. Which distresses me a little bit. Have I led you astray before?
I wouldn't know.
You never cooked any of my recipes before? Wow.
So you were kind of there at the beginning of food competition shows with Iron Chef America.
So you're going to blame me for food competition? It's valid. It's completely valid.
And now we don't have Good Eats. We don't have a lot of shows that are actually about cooking and learning and recipes. What's happened?
What's happened? I'll tell you what happened. This is the ratings happened. Is that a few years ago, and I kind of thought I saw the writing on the wall. I mean, the reason I didn't stop making Good Eats because I was tired of it. I stopped making Good Eats because I thought there was going to be a change in how we consumed media. I wasn't on social media at the time. People weren't watching things on their phones at the time. And I thought there was going to be a change. And I wanted to sit back and see kind of what happened. But what was happening on mainstream television was that everything had gone to competition. And Food Network at the time was no longer an emerging network. They had to play for the same number of eyeballs that NBC played for, that ABC played for, or any of the other networks. And so they went almost 100% competition in primetime. And at first, I was like, okay, well, I thought that Iron Chef America was more of a sporting event, is the way I kind of saw it. It was like NFL on Monday night kind of deal. And then I fell into the hole of doing Food Network Star for a few years. Was sorry that I did that after the first season, and well, we won't go into that. But I'd always wanted to host a game show, an actual game show, and Cutler Kitchen came along, and I thought, okay, I can make that into a game show. But now, I think that we've kind of come full circle again, which is why I'm going to do a sequel to Good Eats on the internet. So I think that it was a cycle that had to play out. And everybody was fighting for eyeballs on television, but more people are fighting for eyeballs now off of television. What we call over-the-top or cord cutters. So we don't have to think in those terms anymore. You know, the only problem is that none of us have figured out how to make any money yet doing it any other way. So, you know, there might be a lot of ads for kitty litter. I don't know. Anyone else? How about you, ma'am?
Will you ever do another show like Feasting on Asphalt?
Will I do another show like Feasting on Asphalt? Here's the problem with that. I can't go, whenever I get on a motorcycle and ride across country and I stop at some cool joint on the side of the road, right? And like dust is blowing, and I put down my kickstand, and you know, I take off my helmet and I wipe the dust out of my hair, and I walk in. The first thing I see is a picture of Guy Fieri. There is no restaurant left where Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives hasn't been. A show which came after Feasting on Asphalt, just throwing that out. And so it's tough. It's tough. I may have to go to other countries where I don't actually speak the language. You know, I would make Feasting on Asphalt again in a heartbeat if it wasn't for that poster. You know, as seen on Food Network. Yeah, that's hard. How about you, sir?
What's your favorite cooking show?
What's my favorite cooking show? Reruns of Good Eats. So what did you think I was going to say? Did you think I was going to pat somebody else on the head? How about the lady in a sweatshirt? Go ahead. Stand up though. Yeah, thank you. Michigan, huh?
Any advice to current culinary students?
Advice to current culinary students.
Something that maybe you think that that we should, what did kids overlook at school?
Good shoes. Good shoes. All the culinary students need is good shoes.
Here, here.
Pretty much. If you don't take care of your shoes, you can't take care of your body. You end up punched over like Emerald Lagasse. Nobody wants that. The other thing about culinary students I would say is don't believe for a moment when you graduate you should call yourself a chef. Because you're not. I don't even call myself chef, and I'm pretty sure I've got more reason to than most people coming out of culinary school. But I'm still not there. So understand that you get out of culinary school, you still got about 25 years of hard work to get there. Which makes you kind of question the whole culinary school thing, doesn't it? You and the glasses, man.
Hi.
Fine.
I guess it's a two-parter. Have you ever lost your mojo, and what did you do to get it back?
I've lost my mojo. Oh, heck yeah. I lost my mojo when I decided to put Good Eats out to pasture. I lost my mojo because I couldn't figure out who I was anymore. And in that case, I got it back by developing a live touring stage show, which maybe some of you saw. And then I did another, that was like, yeah. So then I did another one just called Eat Your Science, which will be coming here in March. And that actually gave me, that really revitalized me. It's like realigning all of my chi or something. And now I'm like awesome again. So, so now I'm going to go back in and make that sequel to Good Eats that I always said that I was going to. But I don't think I would have done it if I hadn't set up another challenge for myself. For me, personally, nothing's more important to me personally than originality. I've got to try to go where nobody's gone before. And I've got to try to push myself beyond what I know I can do. And so doing something like a live stage show, which has now resulted in the fact we're coming out with a CD in November, which is something that I never thought would happen, of our tunes from those two tours. Yeah, I never thought I'd say, I've got a CD of show tunes coming out. I never really saw that happening, but that is what's happening. And so it's reinvention. I follow the Madonna model. Which is fall back, reinvent, attack, fall back, reinvent, attack. And I like the way that feels. How about you, sir, back there in the white shirt?
So, Good Eats had a great science narrative for food. And then that went off the air, and then I had Mythbusters, which was a great science narrative for experimentation. And now that's gone. So, what do you think is on right now that has that same educational science narrative out there?
Well, Bill Nye has a new show coming out on Netflix. Which I'm going to be on that in November. I'm on that show in November. So yeah, we're going to make the universe frickin' explode. Dinosaurs will rise up out of tar. Asteroids. We're going to drive over to Neil deGrasse Tyson's house and just roll a jar. Which that'll be a lot of fun. So I think that's about it. You know, I thought that Mythbusters was just about the best show ever made on television. I'll be honest. And the one time that I got to be on that show, I was so juiced to be on that. Right up until they said, "Okay, so you're going to cook this whole Thanksgiving dinner in a car engine, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they said, "Okay, good night." And they all left. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? Yeah, I worked all night. But science will not go away. I think that we're just reinventing it. And here's the thing: everybody's so much smarter than they used to be. You know, in a lot of ways, I think that people are so much more knowledgeable than they used to be. So it's just coming up with new ways of packaging that. You know, when I made Good Eats, my goal was not to make people, not to like make science cool. It was, I just wanted to entertain people first and foremost. And then if they got hip to the science, that was fine. If they wanted to make the food, that was fine. So I think in the end, as long as people that want to teach science remember that we're entertainers first and foremost, then they will continue to rock on. Cool. How about you, ma'am, in the hat?
One of my
favorite things about Good Eats was the props. And
You like the props on Good Eats?
I'm curious about how much of the original Good Eats team will be working with you on the sequel, specifically the props team.
Okay, here's an answer. You like the props on Good Eats. You liked everything from the sleazy, cheap puppets to the set pieces and all of that. That was a huge part of what made Good Eats fun on a day-to-day basis. That same prop master, a guy named Todd Bailey, who's the only person besides me to work on every single episode, all 252 episodes of Good Eats, also designed my stage shows. And we're pretty much joined at the hip for the rest of life. So yes, the core people that made Good Eats will be back for the sequel. For those of you that are Archer fans, Lucky Yates, who plays Dr. Peter, was both the dungeon master and running my puppet, my entire puppet department. Because I like puppets, because you don't have to pay them residuals. How about you, the cloud shirt?
So I've been making the Good Eats meatloaf from Brian's A Terrible Thing to Waste episode for many years.
You've been making the Good Eats, you like the Good Eats meatloaf, okay.
I love it, and I noticed that there's now a kind of smoked version.
There's a smoked meatloaf in the book.
Lots of good things have happened to me based on that meatloaf.
What kind of good things have happened?
I have children and
So what you're saying is the Good Eats meatloaf is an aphrodisiac.
I don't know if this will have similar problems.
I have to be incredibly careful how I answer this. The smoked meatloaf, and I'm just here about the food. I'm sorry. The smoked meatloaf in Everyday Cook. Imagine the Good Eats meatloaf with handcuffs. In a Tijuana motel. Yeah. Now let's take one from a young person. How about you, sir, the blonde-headed fellow there? Yeah.
Yeah. Who was your favorite guest on the Alton Browncast?
Who is my favorite guest on the Alton Browncast? Do I have any podcast fans? I don't know if you noticed, we relaunched 2 weeks ago. The entire podcast is back up now, and we'll have new shows coming out every 2 weeks. Gosh, that's a really good question. A favorite guest so far? Sorry, I'm running all 50-something through my head. I have to say that probably my favorite conversation. I think I had two of them. One was certainly Adam Savage was a lot of fun because we ended up talking about nothing that either of us were like experts in, really. We ended up talking bizarre movie things. But I also really, really like podcasts where guests divulge things that they're passionate about that most people don't know. And like Bobby Flay's podcast, we spent the whole time talking about his horses. He's a very passionate horse owner, so that was a lot of fun. But the best ones I think are yet to come. The four that are coming after this week are probably my favorite because I think that for a long time on the podcast I didn't get why I was doing it. And then the real reason I was making the podcast is because I just wanted to hear adult conversation again. You know, when I grew up, we had this thing called The Tonight Show. And I remember being a kid, like a really young kid, and like sneaking to watch Johnny Carson and The Tonight Show. And I so enjoyed listening to adults have conversations. And we don't have that anymore. The art of conversations kind of drying up. There are very, very few places in kind of everyday media where that happens. So what I just wanted to talk with people. And so I'm not apologizing for that anymore. And the new podcast, there'll be people that you probably have never heard of, but you know what, they're worth listening to. So thanks for bringing that up, because I'm really proud of it. How about you, man, with the glasses? Oh, there's two of you with glasses. All right, well, side by side. All right, we'll have both. All right, go ahead.
Did you fly here?
Did I fly myself here? I did not fly myself here. I sold my airplane last year because somebody was willing to give me money for it. And the general rule in aviation is when somebody offers you money for your airplane, you take it. And I haven't replaced it yet. So I'm stuffed back there in economy with everybody else.
Would you like to visit a near-time
People were asleep. There were donuts on the floor. It scared the hell out of me. So, no, are you an air traffic controller? Really? Where? Yeah? That's hardcore. We'll talk later, because only if you let me guide in a couple of 787s. You're like, Delta Flight 740, turn 360 degrees left. No, I'm in right. And I like to everybody on the left side of the plane to jump up and down 3 times. Okay? You better do it or I'll spin you hear me? All right, you, next to the other lady with glasses, go ahead. You have the same question, so you're an air traffic controller too? Oh, that's messed up. So your twin sisters with glasses are air traffic controllers. You're not, because you look like them. All right, doesn't matter. Let's take one from way in the back. How about you with the baseball cap on? We're only going to do about 3 more of these. Go ahead.
What's your favorite place to eat in Seattle?
My favorite place to eat in Seattle. What's that? Yeah, you're right. I mean, I have to go with that. I'm going to have to go with the Walrus and the Carpenter. Yeah, I got to. There's some great restaurants here, and it's kind of tough. But Walrus and the Carpenter. Anybody been? Yeah, that's seriously good stuff. If you haven't been, you need to go. How about the young lady right there? Because she's got donuts on her shirt. Go ahead, ma'am.
What was your favorite sabotage on Cutthroat Kitchen?
What's my favorite sabotage on Cutthroat Kitchen? Well, my favorite one was one that we didn't get to do. 90% of the ideas that I come up with for sabotages on that show are rejected. As being inhumane, impossible, dangerous. And I had suggested a sabotage that was a coat made out of cats. I thought that it was a hit. I thought nobody's going to want to wear a coat made out of cats. And they were like, oh, you mean like stuffed animals? Like, no, we go to the pound and we get a bunch of cats. And we zip tie their paws together and make a coat of cats. And they're kind of like culinarily difficult, like the crumpled up crepe pan that we use over and over again. But if I tell you you've got to make soup on an upside down wok, I'm going to be interested to see how you solve that. So it's the simple culinary things that go for me. All right, we're going to take, we have time for like 2 more questions. You.
Would you recommend the kitty kitchen for kids?
Would I recommend a kitty kitchen for kids? No. And here's why. Because kids should learn to cook early, but they should learn to do it in adult-sized kitchens. I am not about shrinking down work for kids. I believe in getting kids into the kitchen early. They should be measuring, scooping, and dumping by the time they're 3. They should be stirring and other stuff like that by the time they're 4. And I put a knife in my daughter's hand when she was 5. It was small. It wasn't like a Bowie knife. It was a paring knife, and the way that I did is I put the paring knife in her hand, and I put a box of Band-Aids on the counter, and I said, you can do what I say, or we're using these. And she never cut herself, not once. And then by the time they're 6 to 7, they're dealing with heat, full-fledged. And then the goal is by the time they're 13, they're making Thanksgiving dinner by themselves. And look, we make them, they should have to work. Like the old days. Now it's like we just spoil them until they're 35. I'm not into that. One more question. We'll take it from the lady standing with the glasses. Go ahead.
All right, I worked at an ice cream shop, like 2 doors down.
Where's my ice cream?
It's right here.
Bring it. Bring me my ice cream. What kind of ice cream is this?
So there's 2 kinds. It's makgeolli, which is Korean rice beer.
What?
Makgeolli.
Makgeolli.
Yeah, there's no
That sounds like
alcohol.
broccoli.
Yeah.
Broccoli with like what?
With an M.
With an M?
And then there's cherry in there.
Hold this.
Makgeolli is the top one.
Makgeolli.
Yes.
What is that again?
Korean rice beer.
Curry and rice beer. Korean rice. Well, that's the same thing. That's delightful. Thank you. Anybody else bring me ice cream? You brought me cupcakes. Let me see. Oh, hell, come on up. Hold that. What do you have?
So this is our Elvis.
Elvis?
Elvis. It's a banana cake, pineapple and coconut inside, and peanut butter buttercream.
Uh-huh.
Then an almond joy. It's a gluten-free almond cake.
Shut up. You two. Fight to the death. Thanks for coming, everybody. We're going to get ready to sign stuff. I'm going to stay here until everybody's book is signed, so don't worry about that, and we'll see you soon.